Hey guys, welcome to Recommend or Refute, our episode where we each discuss a separate movie that we saw and tell each other whether we enjoyed it or not, whether we would recommend it or refute it. I'm going to jump in first. This week I watched 1941's Ball of Fire.
Great educators throughout the world have been forced to streamline our dictionaries and encyclopedias because of the demands of modern slang. Selected to perform this Herculean task of rewriting these ponderous volumes of knowledge is Professor Bertram Potts, who knows nothing about the subject of slang.
This is research, isn't it?
Yes.
Certainly. Who was that guy learn so much from watching an apple drop?
Isaac Newton, the law of gravity.
Yeah, that's him. And I want you to look at me as another apple, Professor Potts.
It's a screwball comedy from the early 40s, directed by Howard Hawks, written by Billy Wilder, starring Barbara Stanwyck and Gary Cooper, that I had been wanting to see for a while and just hadn't gotten around to it. There's no Blu-ray of it, and the restoration isn't that good. Like, it really needs somebody to come in and clean it up and put out a good version of it, but it was on Criterion Channel and it was leaving at the end of February. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try to watch it before it rolls off. I'm a big fan of Barbara Stanwyck. I think she's one of the best actors of that era, kind of the 30s through the 50s. Just a lot more kind of realistic and down to earth than a lot of actors at the time that are stage actors, acting a little bit more for the back row. So I always really enjoy her and stuff. And she's a lot of fun in this movie. She plays a singer named Sugarpuss O'Shea.
I just saw that.
Oh my
I just
God.
saw that on the credits.
Gary Cooper plays a professor named Bertram Potts, who is working with a group of professors that are a bunch of nerds who are like middle-aged to old single men who are all living together and working on making the world's greatest encyclopedia. And they have been doing it for years, and they're doing it on the endowment of some dead guy who had, like, that was his dying wish, that his estate go to making this encyclopedia, but they're way over budget. They've been taking longer than they were supposed to. And the daughter of the dead guy is like upset that they're not meeting their time frame. They're on the letter S and they're trying to move all the way through it. Bertram Potts, played by Gary Cooper, is a linguistics professor. And so he's in the S's, he's working on slang, and he's trying to write the definitive encyclopedia article of slang. But he's a professor who lives with a bunch of other professors and never gets out into the world, and realizes that he doesn't know anything about slang and decides to go out into the world and experience slang and write his encyclopedia article, which is a funny concept, I think. And he runs into Barbara Stanwyck at a nightclub who is doing a musical performance there, and he's recruiting all these people he runs into, like, hey, you need to come to where I work and we're going to do like a survey, and I need to learn how you talk so I can write this article about slang, which is so funny that you would write an article about slang into a physical encyclopedia that is like going to be out of date right after you print it, you know? So Barbara Stanwyck ends up going over there, and she is connected to the mob, and there is a death. She is connected to the person who committed it, so she needs to get out of the limelight for a while. So she finagles her way into staying with all of the professors in their big house while they're working on this encyclopedia article about slang. So it's all of these implied virgin old men who are these stuffy professors they're just shocked that an attractive woman of the world has come into their abode and is staying with them. And a lot of funny bits go on from there. And perhaps love is in the air at some point, as you would expect in a movie of this time. And I thought it was a blast. It was a lot of fun to watch. You know, I like screwball comedies of that era. It isn't my favorite of that time. I think Lady Eve is better, and some of Preston Sturgis's work I probably liked a little bit more. But like, it's written by Billy Wilder. It definitely works. Like, it's a good script. Barbara Stanwyck is very charming in it. So had a really good time with it.
Was there any slang that you learned watching it that you were like, that's hilarious?
Oh, I should have written some stuff down.
It doesn't hold up
There
anymore.
were definitely words that I had never heard that were like, you know, slang from the 40s that I was like, oh, I don't know what that means, but okay.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you the following 1940 slang: fuddy-duddy, gobbledygook, anchor cranker, doll dizzy, ducky shin cracker, gammon, cacky wacky, stompers, and blowjob, which was the term used for the sonic boom left behind when a rocket or jet broke the sound barrier. Didn't see that one coming, did ya? Now back to those swell boys flapping their gums about moving pictures. Yeah, so like on your ranking, where does it stack up next to? You said like Lady Eve is better, like Preston Sturges sort of stuff, but
yeah, I like most of Sturgis's films I've seen. I've liked a little bit better. I think I probably liked it better than Christmas in July.
Okay.
So it was good. It was a very entertaining movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I remember one of the slang words was Gary Cooper had never heard of the word corny before. And I thought I was like, was that really a new word at the time that people were throwing around, like the kids were saying, but the stuffy old professors had never heard?
That's hilarious dating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've watched a lot of Billy Wilder stuff and Howard Hawks as well. And I'm kind of surprised that I haven't seen this one because it's in the National Film Registry and some of his things I like are not even.
Yeah, it's a really famous movie, and I'm really surprised that it doesn't have a good restoration and a good release anywhere. Like I was watching it on the Criterion Channel, and it was like really blurry and just not restored very well. Like, visible issues in the film that you could see in the digital version. I was like, man, like I'm shocked that nobody has actually put some work into this thing, but I imagine that will happen in the next couple of years or so. But
if you sit down and look at Billy Wilder's like filmography, now that I'm just like glancing real quick through it, I'm like, dang, he really cranked out some amazing movies.
Yeah, he did.
And such a differences from like Sunset Boulevard to like this and Some Like It Hot, like our
The Apartment,
very
Double Indemnity.
Right. So very different sets of movies, but all really good at what they're doing. I think like I have to go back at this one because I'm like, I didn't even hear of it.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of cheesy, and you know exactly where it's going, but you still have a fun time getting there, and you get to hear old men say the word "sugar puss" a lot. So that was fun.
Now, do they say it? How is there like a certain intonation all of them say? Is it like the Sugar Bear commercials where that grandma's always like "sugar puss" and like?
They just say it normally, but you can tell they're like kind of not comfortable saying it. I think they don't even reveal her actual name. Like that's clearly her stage name, and I don't even. Maybe if they do, it's like very late in the movie. But pretty much the whole time, she's just Sugar Puss.
I would love it if there was like, is there a scene where she gets mail and it says Sugar Puss just in big letters on the address?
That'd be fun. She like files her taxes in the movie under Sugar Puss. Also, Henry Travers is one of the professors who is Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life.
Well, Sugar Puss, you were never here. There was nobody around to do the crimes with this mob.
And S.Z. Sakal was another one of the professors who is in Casablanca as Carl, who is like the bartender in Casablanca.
I know that guy. He's like German, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is he? Yeah. What watch? Right?
Yeah,
or is that a different? Okay.
Such watch.
Yeah.
So there's some good character actors that pop up in it. So it's good.
Well, I watched this Upper Peninsula little slice of life written and directed by Jeff Daniels called Escanaba into Moonlight.
Hello, my name is Albert Soady, and have I got a buck story for you. The tale I'm about to tell starts in November of '89 in the Soady Deer Camp, located just north of Escanaba, Michigan, otherwise known as the heart and soul of the Upper Peninsula. That's north of the Mackinac Bridge and just south of heaven, for those of you that don't know nothing.
What now?
Escanaba into Moonlight. And it's a 2001 drama comedy. Basically, Jeff Daniels plays the youngest of this family, this Upper Peninsula family, these You-pers.
Is Joe Pera in this movie?
Joe Pera is not, but it did channel some real Joe Pera vibes at times, and I loved it. It was part of the reason why it was recommended to me by one of my friends.
Oh, okay.
And Jeff Daniels is one of the Soady family members, and they say it in this fantastic way all the time. They're like,
"Is the Soady Deer Camp?
Founder.
The world famous Soady Deer Camp?
Wanted to say.
Is that Albert Soady's Sweet Sap Whiskey order, I see?
Might be so lucky.
Yeah, well, better have me a snorty.
He has never actually shot a buck during hunting season, and it is at this point like the talk of the town. Like everybody knows that he's cursed, or they think he is. So there's literally like comedic scenes where people will see him and they'll drop their groceries and just run away. Like they don't want to be anywhere near him. And his wife, who is Native American, blesses his upcoming hunting trip and gives him all of these things to try to bring in the spirits to help him kill a buck. And it's all about him trying to achieve that. That's the entire story. However, like halfway through, it turns into Evil Dead. And the spirits possess him and all this other weird shit happens. And the family is like freaking out in this cabin that's isolated out in the middle of the woods. But it's all done in a very like comical, goofy way. It feels a little tonally dissonant. It really rides the line, but I still had a really good time. It was fun. It was fresh and different for me. And it was also just something I wasn't aware Jeff Daniels worked on at all. And it felt very personal and like it came from a passionate place, that he wanted to write this sort of story that really told you more about that Upper Peninsula experience.
Escanaba and the Moonlight is a very independent movie. I got to use a lot of the actors from my Purple Rose Theater Company in it, and that's a favorite. That one meant a lot because we kind of really did it on our own.
I'm sure
is he from there?
Yeah, I believe so. But it captures a lot of little quirks that I was like, I'm sure that a lot of people who watch this, it really channels it for them if they're from that area or if they move somewhere. It's like a comfort food kind of movie. For me, I was just more in awe at how weird parts of it were, how like certain characters you definitely need subtitles for. And it's so goofy and has all this weird, like they talk about UFOs coming into the forest and people seeing them.
Oh, very timely.
Like, yeah. Like all those kinds of things. So, I was really delighted by it. I was perplexed by it at times, but overall I had just a great experience. It's not the most profound movie, but it feels like it came from a really heartfelt place and it was fun. So I would recommend it, even though at times it kind of straddled that line of getting a little too weird and creepy. It always brought itself back down and managed to make it fun the entire time through. So, and there's a good sense of like character arc at the end of it. So, I liked it. I had a good time and I would recommend it.
Nice. What is an Escanaba?
Escanaba is apparently a region of the Upper Peninsula.
Oh, okay.
It's like a small town or there's a forest nearby there and it all takes place overnight. So Escanaba in the Moonlight.
Is it like the title makes it sound like a love story or something? Is there?
It's more of like, oh, this forest that seems sort of normal during the day really changes at night because of the things that happen. And everybody says duh. Anytime they go to say the for things, they're like, duh, yeah, we went over there and duh. And like, the dialect is fun.
When I heard the title, I was like, is this a Spike Lee movie? Like, what?
There was a bit of like, I was like, Escanaba and the Moonlight. What is it about? But it just has
Escanaba into Five Bloods.
If you liked Fargo because of the way that folks spoke, it's got that same kind of like fun vibe to it. And it's got slapstick comedy. It's got some fart jokes, but those jokes actually landed for me. They weren't just like, oh, it's a fart. Ha ha ha. It was set up with like a bunch of other props around it. Like at one point, one of the characters gets stuck in like a daze and they're trying everything to get him out of it. And the only way they can think is that this one dude obviously has like the worst farts, or he doesn't even have that bad of farts, but he just is farting in his sleep. And they're like, we just got to prop him up and like put him in the dude's butt and like figure out how to make that guy fart. So they're like pumping his legs and all this fucking other random shit that you're like, what the fuck is going on in this movie? It overwhelms you with that bizarre and goofy, but at other times it has like heartfelt emotional moments that actually land. It's able to thread that needle and like go between being serious and talking about somebody who feels like they've been a failure all their life and they really want to prove themselves. And then at the same time have this slapstick elements and this goofiness to it and levity. And I found it just really compelling and charming.
Nice.
So how horribly did it bomb in the movie theaters?
I'm sure it bombed horribly because I was only able to watch it on Tubi. And
sounds about right.
I don't know. There's just,
I was just looking up Jeff Daniels' IMDb page, and he only directed 2 movies, and it was just this one and then one the year later called Super Sucker from 2002 that has 4.4 stars on IMDb.
Oof.
So it looks like Hollywood just like didn't let him make any more movies after that.
They're like, sorry, Jeff Daniels, you wrote out your good time from Dumb and Dumber and all the other great movies you've been in.
He's such a good actor. Like I always really like him in stuff in his serious roles and his comedic roles, and I would be interested to see more of his voice in things. So I'll have to check this out. But yeah, it would be interesting to see if the alternate universe where Jeff Daniels got a director career.
I was gonna say, I think it's funny about Jeff Daniels because so many people think of him from Dumb and Dumber, but he has so much of a career, and he had a serious career before and after.
Right,
like,
he's done so
before
much
and
good
right
serious
after.
work.
Like, yeah. But I do feel like it looks like a time period kind of right there after that mid 90s where he's trying to like serious himself up a little bit to to kind of get away from that again, to get back to the roles that he was serious in.
Yeah.
And I appreciate glancing at this because my immediate look, because I was like, okay, you mentioned the bit about the Native American. I'm like, is it actress actually Native American? And she is, so I feel good about that.
Oh, nice.
And she's in Reservation Dogs, which I throw out
nice.
again as a shout out for a really excellent TV show. Watch that instead of Yellowstone. Anyway,
Yeah.
I feel like it did do a respectable job of like talking about Native American rituals. It exposes moments. They're the family that like Jeff Daniels is a part of. They're not Native American, like his blood relatives. And they have a moment of them being like confused about what he's trying to do as like a chant and kind of a ritual, but they never really make it seem like, oh, that's dumb, or they don't try to relegate it to that. They more just show a disconnect of them not understanding, but trying to go along and support him to like help him get the buck. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like it's not playing it up for laughs, or what I would assume an Adam Sandler film would do with Rob Schneider.
right.
Like
Yeah. That we were, and I mean, but it fits that in the Upper Peninsula and in Michigan in general, there are native tribes as well. And it's something that people would recognize and somewhat run into versus other parts of the country where there isn't that opportunity at all.
And I think, Dixon, you were like kind of looking this up a little bit because I disclosed this prior, but you said there was like a stage play that he wrote that was basically this.
Yeah, at least in the written by section on IMDb, it says Jeff Daniels (play / written by.
Now I want to see the live play if there's like any kind of production of it still running. I don't know if that's the case.
I very much doubt that, but yeah, it says Jeff Daniels wrote the play and the script for the movie. So
yeah, it's the friend who recommended it to me. When I talked to them about it after, they were like, "Did you like it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I found it really good." It was kind of weird towards the end, and they were like, "Yeah." After the halfway point, I just kind of didn't really like it that much. And I was like, "Why'd you recommend it?" Other than just, I guess, the experience. The first half kind of sold him on recommending it to me. But yeah, it's a short watch. It's really light too. So if you've had heavy day or something like that, it's a good time to kick back and just chill out and have a good laugh with Jeff Daniels.
Nice.
Some
we got two lighthearted comedies here so far that recommends. Ryan, what do you got for us?
Yeah, bring us down, Ryan. No.
I watched, we were looking for something again to watch with the kids, so technically I watched a kids movie, but it's a good movie, so taking aside.
Yeah.
We've run out of movies to watch. Yes, we watched Swiss Family Robinson before, and it was awful, and we're still looking for things to watch. And Darla was looking up stuff and found a recommendation for Queen of Katwe.
Can you do big things from such a small place?
Don't think about such things.
Why not?
You would be disappointed.
In chess, the small one can become the big one.
Why are you letting her win?
I'm not letting her.
You can see 8 moves ahead.
Checkmate.
Checkmate.
Checkmate. She won.
You could be the best in all of Uganda.
Good. How can I become a champion?
Sometimes the place you are used to is not the place you belong. You belong where you believe you belong. Where is that for you?
Which I had not even heard of. But then we started to look at it and we're like, wow, this actually looks pretty decent. So 2016 movie that is a biographical, kind of goes by the beats as a sports movie, but it's, sports movies work. They always kind of work.
Sometimes.
And you always kind of enjoy them. Yeah, well, I mean, you know what you're getting and you're into it.
Yeah.
But I'll actually say this one adds some stuff on top of it that I appreciate.
Is there a training montage?
That. Yeah, I mean, a few.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, not necessarily as on the nose. But it's actually a story of particularly framed around a Ugandan girl who grows up to become a grandmaster, I believe, in chess, and as well as some of the other kids. And Katwe is a slum in Uganda, and there's a man who's part of a ministry group who, trying to get the kids out, is bringing them in to play chess and by bribing them to feed them porridge because they're not eating well, and ends up getting a few of these kids really into chess and the opportunity, and finds this girl who is a genius and a prodigy at chess and beats him relatively quickly to where he's like, I don't even know what to do anymore. Like, she's better than me. And he's has to fight to get her into better and better opportunities to play because, one, the places that play chess don't want to bring someone from Katwe in, and they don't go to school. They just live out in the slums. And so those opportunities just aren't there. And then even then, after winning some of those championships, Uganda's not necessarily wanting her to represent them or further, but eventually as she does, she kind of gets reaccepted, and even Katwe, kind of re-recognized as like, okay, this is part of Uganda, and she is a representative of us. The interesting parts of this, beyond the just like, hey, it's sports and they win chess, it does a good job of presenting the country as it is and the people as they are, the good, the bad, and gives some pretty harrowing moments for these characters that they really went through, and moments that really show you the just poverty on a scale that you can't know as an American to see, and to learn that these are real people. At the end, they actually do a little montage and they bring out the actor and the real person side by side for each of the major characters. And to kind of know, like, they did get beyond it, but then still know that there are still these problems there. It did a good job presenting that, and really, like, a few things that I was legit like, holy shit, for this being essentially a kid's movie, where I was like, wow, that's really tense. And my kids were like a little overwhelmed in some of the emotional moments of it. I was very, very happy, very, very pleased with the movie. I was really surprised at how much I ended up like enjoying it and really liking it. So I like totally recommend it as going out there. It is a Disney movie.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, it is a Disney movie, but I think it's more in like having to get someone to distribute it, not a Disney necessarily wanted to make it. I do feel like this is a heartfelt movie from its core that wants to tell this story and pulls it off. The acting is great. The kids are great. Like, all around, I really did think this was an excellent movie.
Nice.
Yeah, I was surprised with it. It was really, really great.
Yeah, I remember when this came out and I was debating on whether to go see it, ended up deciding not to. On the one hand, I was like, it's got Lupita Nyong'o in it. It's getting good reviews. Maybe I'll check it out. On the other hand, I was like, it's a Disney movie that looks like it has a feel-good sports narrative. Maybe I won't. And I ended up not going to see it, but I heard a lot of good things about it. So it sounds like it's worth going back to check out. How is Lupita Nyong'o in it? She's the only actor that I recognize from the IMDb page. What does she do in the movie?
It's good. Like, they're all there's a good mix of who's in it. She's actually not even like the main
Part
people
of the main
within
cast?
it. Yeah, which is interesting. But
it's very
fits
common
well.
for her for some reason. It's like very rare that
Yeah.
she's given big roles. Oh, David Oyelowo is in it.
David
Never mind.
Oyelowo
Yeah.
is kind of, so David Oyelowo is probably the one who spent that you get the most time with, really, as somewhat beyond the main protagonist of our Queen of Katwe. He's awesome. Like, I thought he was really awesome, and he really carries it, and you can see how he cares for the kids and the struggles of trying to help out and to push it, and kind of the sometimes funny ways he gets around the things that are limiting. Lupita is really good too. So she plays the mom character, and there's a lot of strength that's within that. So I would say she's kind of the next character in our ensemble beyond the kids and David, to where she does play sort of the strong center, and you do get the feeling of like how she wants her kids to have something better, but feels stuck, but also is hesitant of what other people's intentions are. And at the same time, how far she can go to help them, but not lose herself either, right? In a place where it's really easy to fall into doing some really horrible things in order to get by. That I felt like it did a good job of getting, like, she gets up to that line, but still wants to hold some level of ethics in herself and not give in to everything. So it's good. Like, that was good. Like, I actually think it had some really core pieces that weren't about like, yay, sports. Like,
Yeah,
that was
nice.
there, but that was like more of like, that kind of draws you in and gives you this narrative that you then really follow very realistic characters in very realistic situations. I'll give away one moment that's not as surprising because you can kind of tell where it's going. There's one that's more surprising that's earlier that I thought really gave away. But towards the end, there's like really horrible rainfall that happens, and it's like flooding out absolutely everything. And within this, they have to move at one point. They're out of money and they can't pay their rent for essentially what is a shack, and end up having to move to a different part of town, and they're living in another shack that's like an old church, and it completely floods through. But in the meanwhile, the like older sister who's kind of been coming and going, and she's maybe got a boyfriend, and she's thinking, you know, there's questions about what she's been doing on the side. She's supposed to be watching a little one and ends up running off with her boyfriend. And so he's there alone as the flood actually comes in and like wrecks his place. And that is honestly realistic and harrowing. And anybody can sit there and feel like this kid, this really little kid in this situation. And in the back of your mind, you're like, this happens. And sometimes it's lucky and someone survives, but a lot of times they don't. You can feel that and think that. And there are moments like that in here that have nothing to do with chess that I thought were really done excellently.
That sounds just like Cocaine Bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Right. Yeah. It's just as on the nose as it should be.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're recommending it to me, Ryan, because Letterboxd says the similar film that I should check out is The Blind Side, and that would actually push me away.
Well, The Blind Side has some interesting things to say in the way that it completely made up. So.
Yes, it does.
Well, I'll need to check this out. I thought David Oyelowo was so good in Selma as Martin Luther King, and then it seems like he hasn't really gotten many big meaty roles to chew on since then, and like he's, you know, occasionally side characters and stuff, or he's in like British TV or something, but he hasn't really gotten like a big role like that. So yeah, I'm excited to check this out at some point.
I'm adding it to my watch list right now. I'm way more enticed by this story than I am by like Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, it was kind of funny that like immediately I thought it, and then afterwards I was like, that feels like Queen's Gambit, and I was like, yeah, except true and better true. And yeah, like that was it was an interesting feeling to be like, yeah, it's kind of the same thing that came before it and is real and better. Yeah, it was kind of weird. I don't know when the Queen's Gambit book came out, like that was probably a while ago, but still.
Is this a movie that Disney is like proud of and putting on Disney Plus or ashamed of?
It's on Disney Plus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. I don't know that they're like out. I would actually be surprised to look. I don't even think it probably showed up in their like Black History Month stuff, which it totally should have. So I don't know that they necessarily put it out there. I don't think that it necessarily did well. It probably should have been like brought up or potentially like in the conversations for some nominations and stuff. And I don't know that it really did. Because I think it was really good. I'm looking at it now and I'm like, it's up for some awards, but it did not like huge ones necessarily.
It's refreshing to hear you talk about a movie that you seem to really enjoy, Ryan, versus the normal like,
your cynicism.
My kids made me watch this god awful Netflix movie this week by like Illumination.
Oh, we watched some
films.
Other stuff, but this was the one to talk about.
Yeah, you gotta watch something you enjoy every so often, Ryan. You know, that's like Doctor recommended, I'm pretty sure, but
it's good for my heart.
Yes, it is. Cocaine for the soul, as some may say.
Anything else before we wrap up, guys?
No. What was our three here? Let's just recap.
Oh yeah. So we had 3 recommends. I recommended Ball of Fire. John recommended
Escanaba into
Moonlight. And Ryan recommended Queen of Katwe.
Yep.
So 3 recommends to counteract our on Cocaine Bear from a few days ago.
Episode,
good to counteract that there.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us this week, guys. We'll see you in a few days with our next episode.
We probably won't see you, but you get it. You fucking get it.
Yeah. No, I will see you. I have cameras in your house.
Okay. And you'll see the lawsuits. No, I'm just
We see what you're doing right now while you're listening to this. We know.
Bob, stop picking your nose.
Hey there, movie buffs, TV toughs, and all listeners in between. John here from the Afterthoughts podcast. I just wanted to drop in at the end of this episode and say thanks for listening. If you've got afterthoughts of your own to share, hit us up. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Afterpod, or jump into a conversation on our Discord server. You can find info for this and more at theafterpod.transistor.fm. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.